This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Haba. We're continuing in Mishna Berura Yomi. We're up to Siman Lamed Beis. Sif Hey. Tzarech sheyichtov biyaminai. You need to write the tefillin with your right hand. Afilim hu shalib b'shtei yadav. Even if you're ambidextrous. V'im kasa b'smal psum. If you write with your left hand, it's possible. Im evshar limtzai acherim ksuvin biyamin. If you write with your left hand, it's possible. If it's possible to find others written with the right hand, which seems like if you can't find any others, then you could use tefillin written with your left hand. But if it's possible to find others, they're possible. V'iter yad, a lefty, smile didei, his left hand, have a yamin, is considered the right hand. Seif katan yod zayin in the Mishna Berura. Sheyichtov b'yaminai, to write with your right hand. Dein derech ksiva b'smail. It's not the derech to write with the left hand. That's the reason why you have to write with your right hand. The pasuk says uchsavtam, and Rashi explains most people write with their right hand. Okay. Likewise, not only if you write with your left hand is it possible, but if you make any kind of amendation or correction with the left hand, it's possible. To separate letters that are touching, Nero would seem the kosher afilu b'smal, that is kosher even with the left hand. The Dirshu explains that this is not ksiva, it's just being machshir the oisiyos. He says the same thing later on in Siman Tavkuf Memhei regarding writing on Chalamoid, that it's mutter to separate letters on Chalamoid because that's not considered writing. So you cannot make a tikkun, but you could separate. Dumya demachshirin ba'anoshna absulin lazal lekaman b'siman lam tes al kolpanim b'diyeved ayin sham. Similar to what we say later on, that people who are puzzled to write, they could separate letters. Okay, the Mishna Berura continues. B'smail, hainu b'shoylep b'yamin levad. This is going on that you have to write with your right hand, even if you're shoyleit with two hands. If you write with your left hand, it's puzzle. That's if you're a complete righty. But if you're ambidextrous, then if you wrote with your left hand, it's kosher. V'afilu shor b'yamin levad. Even if you only use your right hand, if you can't find other tefillin, but if you can find others, you should put them on, but don't make a bracha. A sofer that writes with his right hand, but does everything else with the left hand. So Kasa Pri Megadim Shenachan L'Chachila Shel L'Kabla Sofer. The Pri Megadim says Chachila, don't use him as a sofer, because you're getting into questions. What hand should he write with? So if you're ambidextrous, you could go. This is not the profession for you. Safras is not for you if you're ambidextrous. But the Yevid ain't lesser. But the Yevid we're not going to aser. Okay, now someone who's a lefty, so his left hand is the right. Says Mishna Berura Haviyamin, Al Kainim Kasav Biyaminoi Pasol. If a lefty writes with his right hand, it's Pasol Kamay B'Smal Da'alma V'Chanal. It would be Pasol like somebody who wrote it with his left hand. Im Efshar Limtzai Achim, if it's possible to find others. V'Kasav Harama. Now the Rama over here refers to Rabbi Menachem Azariah of Pano, the Rama mi Pano. This is not the Rama; it's with an ayin. Ma'isa Haya b'Mitzrayim. There's a story in Egypt. Shatafas echad hakomos b'svasa v'kasabay, that somebody took the pen in his mouth and wrote with it. Upaslai, and he pasled it. Dein derech ksiva ba'pel l'kulei ama. According to everyone, it's not the derech to write it with your mouth. I remember when I was a kid, my grandmother, Zal Gesundsein, she was a special ed teacher in the public school system. She would teach handicapped children. It was actually a little bit traumatic for me. I remember there was a kid there without arms, and my grandmother worked with the kid to write with his toes. she would take off his socks and put the pen or the crayon in his foot. So he would not be able to be a Sefer. Because of the puzzle afilu miyavshlum se'achirim. This kind of writing, it's not like a writing in his left hand that b'diavad it's kosher. Even b'diavad it's puzzle. V'ayin b'sefer Mishna Savram. Look in the Sefer Mishna Savram b'shem haget mekusher v'oid paiskim demajven zeh ayakoyz b'ragloi la'akoyz b'yad smal. The Mishna Savram, in the name of the Get Mekusher and other paiskim, they equate this with somebody who's a righty writing with their left hand, that if you can't find others, it would be kosher. So not like what the Mishna Berura just said, that the Rama, from the Magen Avram, that it's puzzle even if you can't find others. Siv Vav, Ein Sarach Lasartate Kiyim Shita El Yaina. When it comes to Tefillin, you only have to etch the top line. Says the Mishna Berura, Sivkata and Chav, Shita El Yaina, Mishum the Tefillin Ein Oleh Halach L'Moshe Misinai Lasartate Kamei Mezuzah. By Tefillin, it's not like Mezuzah. Mezuzah, there's Halach L'Moshe Misinai, you need to do Sertot, the whole thing. However, Tefillin, there's no Halach L'Moshe Misinai. Rak Mishum the Asar Lichtov Gimel Tevois Mi Pasuk B'li Sertot. It's just that it's Asar to write 3 words from a pasuk without sirtot. So the reason why we do sirtot in Tefillin is not because for the same reason as mezuzah. Mezuzah is halach l'moshe misinai, the whole thing needs to be etched. By Tefillin, it's just there's a din, you can't write 3 words from a pasuk without etching it. If I'm not mistaken, Rav Malkiel Kotler, when he gives a haskama for a sefer, if he quotes a pasuk, he always underlines the pasuk. Why? I think it's based on this idea that you're not supposed to write 3 words from a pasuk without doing sirtut. Now, underlining is not considered sirtut, but writing is not considered writing on a klaf either. So, for whatever level writing on a paper is considered writing a pasuk, so underlining is, there's an idea of that. When you etch the top line, it's enough. Most people know, meaning once the first top line is straight, then it's easy to follow in the lines beneath it. Now, when the Mechaber says "Ein sarach v'kamar ein sarach mishum de'im yirtzeh l'sartei kashit," and when we say you don't have to, because if you want to, kedei lichtov yoser b'yoser, in order to write it straighter, liapos hashitos, that the line should be straighter, or it's just biyadai. I believe that's what Seifrim do. I believe they do etch even Tefillin. V'im lo yisirtet afilu shital yoina ayim b'bir halacha. What if you didn't etch the top line? Look in the Bir Halacha. Let's see the Bir Halacha. The lashon of the mechaber is you don't even have to. That implies that shita al yona you do have to be mesarte. It says the Bir Halacha v'diavad am lo yisirtet afilu shita al yona l'das mechaber oimi called sad l'das rama. The mechaber says the top line, and as we're going to see, the Rama holds you need to do sirtit on the sides. If you see, the Rama brings the Yeshamrim that you have to do lamalo, lamato, minhat stadim. And that's the minhag. So, the Bir Halacha says, Taloi bein shitas Rabbeinu Tam Shari Poskim. Depends between Rabbeinu Tam and other Poskim. The Rabbeinu Tam shekasav, the Sefer Torah in Sricha Sirtot, rak b'shita al yaina. The Rabbeinu Tam, who writes that a Sefer Torah, you don't need Sirtot, only in the top line according to the Mechaber. Oy mikol sal das Rama over the Yaved nifsal b'zeh. Mochrach loimer came misach seven derish and misor galas psulam kein hu adin betfillin. So Rabbeinu Tam holds that it is required. Avol if you mad the paskim yardes and reish ayin aleph sefhei the sefer Torah tzrich aliyah sirted bekula kamay mezuzah. So according to other poskim, it would not be pasal. And that accordingly would come out okay why the Mechaber doesn't say that it's pasal b'diavad if you didn't. So the bottom line is, if you did not do sirtan on the top line according to Mechaber, or the sides and the bottom according to Ramah, it would be machlokes between Rabbeinu Tam and other poskim. Rabbeinu Tam would say it's pasal, and other poskim would say it's still kosher. Okay, we'll hold it over here. We will continue in the middle of Siv Vav tomorrow, Siv Katan and Chaf Aleph. Wishing everyone a wonderful day. Shkayach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.